That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther. I'm a flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther. I'm a flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther. I'm a flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther. I was like, what is this about? What?
That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther.
For sound bites. This is awesome.
And we're probably
All
live.
right, everyone, welcome back to Anti-Religious Scripture Study with me, Karen B, and of course, just Jack Flat Earth.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
We're here.
Shalom.
All right. I mean, why not? Like, it's the last episode of the series. Why not have some technical difficulties, right?
Of course.
All
It
right.
wasn't that bad, though. We're
Um,
good.
last time, well, I say last time, but what we're gonna do further, the disclaimer will still probably still be accurate. But as the last time for this Torah translation, this is the last disclaimer. Just Jack's disclaimer. To the religious, if you believe it's wrong to study the scripture outside of your religion or denomination, if you believe your religious leaders or church fathers are incapable of having inherited anti-scriptural traditions of men, if you've already made up your mind about scripture, including the scripture shouldn't be studied at all, then this stream is not for you. To others, if you are open-minded to others' opinions, if you haven't made up your mind about scripture, if you've been turned off to religion but believe there's truth in scripture that may have been changed or hidden by religion, if you live according to scripture and like to dig in and discover more, then this stream is for you. We are looking at scripture in the original language using concordances or dictionaries for root words as well as context from a non-religious perspective. We will as well have life experience discussion. We are not here to argue with others about theology or doctrine by the traditions of men, including Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. We will be discussing the importance of origins and show how religions contradict the scriptures. There we go. All right, and FYI, I've mentioned in chat if you're interested in the Torah calendar that I go by, the Gregorian 413 evening will be Pesach. The Gregorian 14th through 20th will be Matzot, and the Gregorian 6-8 will be Shavuot. All right. We will have yet another month to end this year. And you can start reading 34 whenever you're ready. Mind you, this is the very last statement done by Moshe. It's like the blessing on all the tribes before he goes up the mountain.
Did we do 33 last week?
We did.
Why don't I remember it?
I even said Illuminati not confirmed.
Oh, okay. Because I'm even rereading it, and I'm like, I don't remember reading this. I think I just have too much stuff going on during the week.
Yeah, because remember mentioning the Umim and Thurim? The
Yeah,
Umim and Tumim?
I
Yeah,
do vaguely remember that. Okay.
yeah. And we hadn't done that in a while.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. All right.
So this is oh, yeah, that was the blessings, yes. And then this is the final chapter that sums it up. Yep.
Okay.
Alrighty then. Verse 1.
And Moshe went up from the desert plains of Moab to Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah, which is opposite Jericho, and Jehovah showed him all the land of Gilead as far as Dan.
Yep, and people will recognize Jericho, like the city of Jericho that was conquered shortly after this in the beginning of Joshua. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Verse 2.
And all Naphtali and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh and all the land of Yehudah as far as the western sea.
Okay.
And the Negev and the plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, as far as Soar.
Okay.
And Jehovah said to him, This is the land of which I swore to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Yaakov, saying, To your seed I give it. I have let you look at it with your eyes, but you do not pass over there.
I mean, probably a lot of that land went behind the curve, right? I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Yeah, 5.
And Moshe, the servant of Jehovah, died there in the land of Moab, according to the mouth of Jehovah.
Okay.
And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite the Beit Peor, and no one knows his burial place to this day.
And there's verses further in the scriptures in the prophets where they're like, there's a contesting of where Moses' body is because I think that he left. Like he didn't stay buried for very long before he joined with Jehovah.
Mm.
All right, 7.
And
Hold
Moshe,
on one second. Hold on one second. I gotta refresh this. This is my fault, y'all. But these yellow blotches right here, these are untranslated because I did not update it, unfortunately. That was so dumb. This is a short chapter anyway. But y'all can see the process of what I have to go through every week. All right. Modes. Save. Save. Yes. Overwriting it. All right, you can keep going now.
all right.
7.
And Moshe was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dim, nor his freshness gone.
Okay, so his freshness gone is a good translation, but his eyes dim. I had a I had a different translation for that. Was not dim. Let's see. Oh, of course it's the one not translated. Okay, continue.
All right.
Sorry.
And the children of Israel wept for Moshe in the desert plains of Moab 30 days, and the day of weeping and mourning for Moshe were completed.
Okay, so there was a question about this time for mourning. I know in modern times, I think it's a week or two, but in this verse, it clearly states that they were mourning for him for an entire month, right? So do with that what you will. Oh, okay. So his freshness would be his moistness, which it's kind of, ew, because I word moist.
Mm-hmm.
To be weak. Let's see. Okay, it was not darkened. Okay, his eyes were not darkened, and his life source lifted was not was still moist. Yeah. All right. Verse 9.
And Yehoshua son of Nun was filled with the spirit of wisdom, for Moshe had laid his hands on him, and the children of Israel listened to him, and did as Jehovah had commanded Moshe.
Okay, so this is where Yehoshua, aka Joshua, takes over as being in charge of Israel, and then they go to war. And this term right here, Yehoshua son of Nun, is important because in the New Testament, earlier versions before 1980 of the King James Version, it used to say Jesus son of Nun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because everywhere where they were translating Yeshua's name, they were just translating Jesus, 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 Jesus. So one time it was talking about Joshua, and they didn't catch it, and it stayed Jesus for generations where they didn't catch it because it was the tradition to translate it to Jesus instead of Joshua, even though it was a common Hebrew name. Jesus is not this, Jesus is a made up name, but it was to replace the common name of Yehoshua that we transliterate as Joshua. So that's important when you're studying the New Testament and Greek. All right, 10.
And since then no prophet has arisen in Israel like Moshe, whom Jehovah knew face to face.
Okay.
For all
Because
this,
they had hold on, I want to clarify that too because we were in the chapter when a certain content creator was saying that the Bible contradicts itself because it says no man sees the face of Elohim and lives, and yet in this chapter Moshe is talking to him face to face. But it tells you how he approached him face to face when it was a pillar of fire or a pillar of smoke, and Moshe speaking to Jehovah in that pillar. So it's not like he saw the face of Yah. In fact, when he said, when Yah said he was going to reveal his glory to Moshe, he held him in the cleft of a rock and let him see him from behind. In other words, away from him, but yet he could see him. No man can face Jehovah face to face. All right. This knowing face to face means they had an open line of communication. That's what it means.
yeah. For all the signs and wonders which Jehovah sent him to do in the land of Mitzrayim before Pharaoh and before all his servants and in all his land.
Okay, so crossing the Reed Sea and hearing Yah's voice in front of a multitude and consuming it with fire and leading them day and night with smoke and fire and providing them manna and water from a rock, and it goes on and on and on and on. So that's why it said, no one has had that kind of interaction since Moshe. So.
And for all that strong hand and all the great fearsome deeds which Moshe did before the eyes of all Yisrael.
All right, that is the end of the Torah portion. Please, in the chat, if you have any questions about the Torah in anywhere in it, in its entirety, please feel free to put the questions in chat. I'm talking to Karen about how we can further negotiating, getting together and talking about scripture stuff. And she suggested that we go through the perspective of the preterists and see how they come to the conclusions they've come to. Preterists are those who believe that the entirety of scriptures has already been fulfilled. It's been done. And I told her it's complicated, just like some other conversation that she had yesterday with someone, because what happens is they've redefined words. And when you redefine words, you can put your narrative in any place. Like if I said every time in the Bible where it says Israel, what it literally means is the USA. And then every time I see and Moshe did it in all the eyes of the USA. And I would read it that way every single time, which would mistranslate everywhere where that word would show up that I've redefined. And I can't do that because it would be like I would need a new dictionary to show you how they've redefined words. And like when I got into a conversation with someone who believed this perspective, I asked them, where in the Bible does it say that? And then they would mention a couple verses and we would go to those verses and it wouldn't say that. And I was told, but you got to read this other book by this other guy to understand what these words mean. They don't mean what they actually say. And that's where it gets very convoluted. So that would be the same thing as like why, Christians have their belief systems. It's based on doctrine of redefining terms and redefining concepts within the scriptures. It's about philosophy. Now, do I think that there is evidence of a rise of a great people and then a fall of a great people? And I say yes, but I say that it's a cyclical thing. It happens often. There's great cultures that come into power and then all of a sudden they just crash and disappear for some reason. And it has happened over and over and over again. And I've heard a lot of people who talk about the famines and pestilence and wars and rumors of wars and everything else like that. But if you look at that actual verse, it says there's going to be all these things, famine and pestilence and wars and rumors of wars, but the end is not yet. It's literally in that verse. And I challenge people that you got to read verses in context and not just let people lead you by their own retranslation of words. Like, well, what it says is, but what it really means is, because that gets convoluted. Now, if they're showing you the base root word and the actual definition, then you can go with that. For instance, in the New Testament, where it says there's going to be people that approach Yeshua and they're going to say, didn't we heal people in your name? Didn't we cast out demons in your name? Didn't we do mighty works in your name? And he said, depart from me, I never knew you, you who work iniquity. Well, iniquity is something that we don't use in our language today. But if you go back to the Greek, it's the word anomia. A means without, and nomia means law, without the Torah. Depart from me, I never knew you, you who work lawlessness or without the Torah. And what is the Antichrist called? The lawless one. I'm just saying though. You're saying it said USA, or that mistakenly said USA. When you said that, my mind went straight to those videos going around claiming America is Egypt and so on and so forth. Yeah, and I made that same comparison as well. Back when we were reading about the Exodus from Egypt, I said, isn't this funny how, there was a change of power and then people just submitted to the ones in power. And even though they still own their land and they still own their properties, it was all to give chunks to the leaders, right? And I said, yeah, that's very comparable to how American, government system works and tax collections and everything else like that. And Yah's will is that that's not the process. So absolutely, there is comparisons between these mighty nations and the way that they reject Yah's law to make their own law so that they can become more powerful or more rich or more popular or whatever. But there's always a comparison. That's the whole point of understanding what the Torah says so that we don't fall in the same trap that previous nations have. I would love to see what you did here. Love to see what you did here done to the existing fragments of Enoch from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yeah, I don't subscribe to a lot of the I don't want to get into anything that is not within the collection of scriptures. Let's call it the canon. Um as far as the root word analysis, like, it's hard to even find a original copy of the Hebrew, but in that collection, there's also, okay, I'll give you for example. Someone told me, well, obviously, Enoch is scripture because they took it out and it's still in the Ethiopian collection of scriptures. And I asked them, so you live according to the Ethiopian collection of scriptures? And they didn't understand what I was saying because they're they're doing, I mean, obviously everybody's heard of cherry picking, because in the collection of the Ethiopian books they would tell you there's a certain way that you have to dress and there's a certain prayers that you have to say before certain things and everything. It's just another religion built on books. So yeah, root word analysis instead of interpretation. Yeah, it would be awesome if somebody did that, but I I choose to like try to figure out what we have in the Torah first, because the the digging deep, if you will, I'm trying to use the right terms without being offensive, but if you go to the digging deep meaning of the scriptures, in other words, yeah, the surface meaning is this, but there's this deeper meaning of yada yada yada, philosophical or spiritual or whatever. And there's nothing, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if you're using that to override the plain scriptures, what you can clearly see is intended by the surface information, I think you're missing the point. If you're going so deep that you're missing the surface, I think that, you get lost. Um,
what language was the Book of Enoch originally written in? Do you know?
as far as what we have Greek and Hebrew versions of Enoch.
Mm.
And that was, I mean, that's the same thing with like the Torah, for instance. There is this argument that the Greek version, which is called the Septuagint, is more accurate than the Hebrew version. But as far as the differences of between the Hebrew and the Greek, the main differences are the books outside of the Torah, which is very interesting because originally the Septuagint was only the Torah and they added the other books after the fact. Because the whole idea of the Septuagint is that the leader um, was asking the different nations to write a history of um, their culture, of their religion, etc. And when the Hebrews did it, they got 70 elders together, right? Because it's like paralleling the 70 elders of Moshe. But this is why it says septa. Septa is the 70, and then they translated it, and the Hebrew to the Greek translation was almost perfect between the 70 you know translators. So that's what that was about. But if you translated it literally, it would say stuff like heaven and earth created Elohim, right? Because the parts of speech are different. The same as like when you're translating English from Spanish, if you do it literally, sometimes the sentences become very confusing because you'll find like, the subject and I forget the terms of the, you know, who's doing the action. It gets confusing. Okay. Fragments of the Hebrew older than the full script in Greek. Yeah, exactly. We have fractions of the Hebrew and full of the script in Greek, and that goes back to the same thing with the Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, which I studied a couple years ago. It's like there's minute changes, but these changes are huge. Like we're talking about the difference of a stroke of a pen in Hebrew, but it changes the whole concept of philosophy in the Greek. For instance, in Matthew 23, it says that they sit in the seat of Moses, purporting to have Moses' authority. Therefore, whatever they say, do, but don't do as they do. Which sounds like hypocritical. Like listen to the Pharisees, but don't do what they do. Like they're hypocrites. However, what it actually says is do not follow the Takano and Ma'asim of the Pharisees. Do what he said, because we're talking about the seat of Moses, and Yeshua says, you do what he, Moses, said, not they, the Pharisees, say. And that stroke of a pen difference changes everything. Which the they portion, like if you said listen to the Pharisees, it's hypocritical because only a chapter or two later, Yeshua says, don't listen to the Pharisees because their leavening ruins the lump. In other words, like if you even do a little bit of what the Pharisees tell you to do, it'll mess up the whole thing. Don't follow religion is the is the basis of that. All right, shout out to TC Zandman, Aisling 717, Critical Inception, Joseph Osborne, Jay, which I now know is Jana, Vincent, Effed Up World. There's a lot of the same names, so I'm trying to get through it. Liz, the Iron Maiden, Carolyn, and Alex Javier. All right. So no questions then? Just read it to me.
Did Moses write all the Devarim?
Did Moses write all of Devarim? It would be kind of eerie to write about your own death before it comes to pass. Yeah, we actually talked about that a couple of chapters ago when Jehovah's like, yep, you're going to go up that mountain, you're going to die. That I do believe was written by Moshe. I think it was all written by Moshe. Some believe that Joshua may have written the last chapter or three, and I'm like, but he wrote about all of Genesis that he wasn't there for. Moshe was not there for the beginning of creation, but he wrote down what he was told to write down. So I think it's very possible that Moshe wrote the last chapters. Does it matter that he wrote them down now? If it's just a historical record by some dude later on, I'm fine with that too. Because like I said, I think there's changes that were made to the original Torah because when it was re-recorded by Ezra and Nehemiah, they had lost the language and they had to restore it in the new some of it had to be renewed in because they didn't know Hebrew. So yeah, they had to rewrite it. So like when it talks about concepts of they came out of, oh my gosh, what's the word? That Pharaoh that they attribute the Exodus from doesn't make sense because they're talking about the city that did not exist yet is mentioned here. So
Hilarious. The Way says, read KJV only. This man is a servant of Lucifer.
okay. Well, okay. Let's go back to the KJV only, shall we? Because the KJV only is not changing what I'm speaking of. Okay, so like let's say Lucifer in the KJV in the Old Testament only shows up one time, but yet you look up the definition and it has several translations of the one word. How could the one Hebrew word Lucifer show up and have several different definitions? Because you've attributed it based on your doctrine and theology, not based on the word. It's actually Hallel, but anyway. KJV only. Yep. Let's read KJV only and lose all of the names of the Bible and reinterpret them so that we lose the meaning of all of these words. Let's use simple terms like God and Lord instead of acknowledging the creator who gave us his title that shows that he's infinitely the existent one. Crazy people, man. KJV only is what you're going to get.
Hey man, whatever you people want to do. That's why we have the disclaimer in the beginning of the show.
Only trust the canon. I just got through saying I'm only looking at the canon. What? What is this guy doing? Anyway, KJV means government Bible. Right. It was a king who organized the collection of the Bible, and it's only his version. And by the way, the book of James in King James was put there by King James because it was originally Jacob. Anyway. Yeah, you know what, y'all? If you want to read the King James only, and that's the information that you accept, more power to you.
I mean, everybody's free to do whatever they want to do.
Yep. But I'm not gonna call you Lucifer if you read King James only. Just saying.
Right? Going a little far, bud.
How dare you try to study more of the scriptures than what's given to us? Ah!
I just don't think if you're reading the Bible, I just don't think there's that could be bad. Unless it's the Schofield Bible. I probably would think that's the only bad one.
There's not that much difference between what I was showing you and what the King James has, except for a few tiny incidences, right? But one of the biggest ones is where it says the 10 commandments, but it literally says 10 words. But that's offensive to them, even though they deny the Old Testament altogether. The people who are King James only people will deny the first part of the book, a majority of the book. And let's go to King James only. Just to
and
put some salt in the wound.
And let's just ignore the fact that you've got 3 different versions on screen every time we're streaming. So it's like, whatever.
Yes.
Whatever.
Compare it. Feel free. All right. So we're going to deny that this is King James only, but make sure that you don't read the Old Testament because it's not necessary because we don't have to keep the commandments. This is 1 John, okay? It's the 5th to the last book, right? It's near the back. Definitely New Testament. It says, and hereby we know that we know him if we keep his commandments. And he that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whoso keepeth his word, verily the love of God is perfected. Hereby we know that we are in him. Hello? Anyway.
All right. So that
I've had to deal with that. I've had to deal with that for the last 10 years. So
yeah. So anyway, that is the conclusion of the Torah for anti-religious scripture study. Jack and I do want to continue to do this. We are not entirely sure at what capacity or what sort of route we're going to take with that yet. So just stay tuned. We'll let you guys know. And we do.
I would say it would be a good idea for you to get questions put together for us to possibly discuss on the next show.
Mm-hmm.
And if you would like to, you can email me justjackflatearth@gmail.com and I will consider, writing up a bunch of notes and digging into subjects if you'd like, and then I can discuss it with Karen and see how she feels about it. But yeah, we're still planning on getting together every week. Sound right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yep. 1 John says it loud and clear.
I don't know if we're going to be back next week though, because we haven't figured anything out yet. We'll have to figure something out.
All right. Stay tuned.
Once we figure it out, we'll get going again.
Okay.
All
That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't have anything in stone either. It's just, if you guys want, further discussion on a certain subject, you can email me. Try to keep it on the canon and possibly questioning doctrine based on scripture. All right. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Shabbat shalom, y'all.
All right, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, everybody, for following along as we went through the Torah. We appreciate everybody being here and all your participation throughout the couple of years that we've been doing this. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next chapter.
And the earth is still flat.
And the earth is still flat.
Shabbat shalom.